At exactly 1:30 a.m., a thunderous pounding rattled my front door. My heart lurched awake, and when I opened it, my daughter collapsed onto the cold tiles, her face swollen, her breath shallow. "Mother, he hit me," she gasped, clutching her side. He has another woman." The night air smelled of rain and betrayal. I froze, then bent to catch her trembling body. The bruises told me everything words could not. That was the moment I vowed her husband would never get away with this. If you love justice stories, like and subscribe, and tell me where you are watching from. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. 72 years on this earth have carved lines of wisdom on my face, but never weakness. I live alone in a quiet brick house at the edge of town, where the porch light glows like a beacon in the dark. I wear my silver gray hair in a bun every morning, as my late husband always admired, and my pearl necklace rarely leaves my neck. It is not vanity. It is armor. It reminds me that dignity is something no one can take away. My daughter, Margaret, is 38. She has my stubborn chin, but not my armor. Life with her husband, Daniel, has ground her down slowly. At family dinners, I saw the cracks in her smile, the way she pushed her food around without eating, how she avoided his gaze. "Marriage is work, Mother," she would say, as if trying to convince herself. Daniel was never the kind of man I trusted. Too smooth, too quick with excuses, too ready to charm in public and vanish in private. He worked in real estate, and he liked to brag about commissions and cars, but he never once bragged about being a good husband. I noticed. I always notice. For years I bit my tongue. Margaret begged me not to interfere. "Please, Mother, I can handle it," she whispered after one holiday gathering when I asked her why Daniel ignored her entirely during dinner. I saw the fear in her eyes then. Fear she did not want to admit. But nothing prepared me for that night. The night rain tapped against the windows. The clock on the mantel ticked toward 1:30. My dreams had been uneasy, my husband's voice echoing from the past, warning me to stay alert. Then the pounding shattered the silence. I rushed barefoot, robe trailing, and when I opened the door, I found my daughter broken before me. Her lip was split, her cheek darkened with the mark of a hand. Her fingers shook as she clung to my sleeve. "He told me I was worthless, Mother," she whispered. "He hit me because I asked about her. His mistress." The word mistress burned in the night air like acid. I gathered her in my arms, lowering her gently to the rug. I wanted to scream, to storm out into the rain and drag Daniel into the street by his collar. But I did not. Not yet. Because at that moment, as Margaret's tears soaked my shoulder, I understood something clearly. If I acted on impulse, I would fail her. This was not just about anger. This was about justice. And justice requires patience and planning. Viewers, tell me, if your daughter came home battered in the dead of night, what would you do first? I stood in my hallway, holding my broken daughter, my mind racing. I promised myself Daniel would pay. But the path I chose that night was darker and far more dangerous than he ever expected. I laid Margaret on the couch, pulling a blanket over her trembling frame. Her skin was clammy, her breath uneven. I fetched a basin of warm water and a cloth, dabbing her face gently. "Do not call the hospital," she whispered, clutching my wrist with surprising strength. "He will find out. He will twist it. He always twists it." Her words unsettled me more than the bruises. What kind of man terrifies his wife so deeply that she fears medical help? "Margaret, you need a doctor," I said firmly, but her wide eyes pleaded. So I compromised. I had an old friend, Dr. Harrison, who owed me more than one favor. Within the hour, he was at my door, discreet, silent, carrying his worn leather bag. He examined her ribs, her face, her arms. "Cracked ribs," he murmured, shaking his head. "Bruising everywhere. Eleanor, this man is dangerous." I looked him square in the eye. "You will not report this." "Not yet. I need time." Dr. Harrison hesitated, then gave a solemn nod. "I will keep her stable. But Eleanor, be careful. Justice delayed can turn into tragedy." When he left, Margaret finally broke. Her sobs poured out, muffled in the blanket. He has been seeing her for months. A woman from his office. Younger. Perfect. He told me. He told me he should have married her instead. Tonight I confronted him, and he threw me against the wall. Her voice cracked. "Mother, he said if I tell anyone, he will take the children away. He will ruin me." "Ah, the children. My grandchildren, 8-year-old Lily, and little Thomas, barely 6. 2 bright lights who adored their mother. The thought of Daniel using them as weapons made my blood boil. I stroked Margaret's hair. "My darling, listen to me. No man who betrays his vows, who lays hands on a woman, deserves peace. Do you hear me? He thinks he holds the power, but he has never met the true strength of a Whitmore woman. Her sobs slowed. Her hand gripped mine. But what can we do, Mother? He has money, lawyers, connections. He will bury us. I leaned close, lowering my voice. Then we will bury him first. Not with shovels. With truth. The house grew silent again, save for the ticking clock. My daughter fell into an exhausted sleep on the couch. I sat in the armchair opposite her, staring at the fire as it dimmed to embers. My mind worked like a chessboard. Every betrayal Daniel had inflicted was a piece I would use against him. The first betrayal, of course, was his affair. I needed proof. Proof that would strip away his polished mask. Proof no lawyer could deny. At dawn, when Margaret finally stirred, I had already made tea and a decision. "Margaret," I said, handing her the cup, "you are not going back to that house today. You will stay here with me. But I need you to tell me everything. Names. Times. Places. Do you know who she is?" Her lips quivered. "Her name is Julia. She is his secretary. I saw the messages on his phone. He called me paranoid. But I know what I saw." I nodded. The name was the beginning of a rope I could pull, a thread that would unravel him. But then Margaret said something that chilled me deeper. "Mother, I think Lily knows. Last week she asked me why Daddy spends so much time with Miss Julia. She saw them together when he took her out for ice cream." I froze, teacup in hand. Betrayal layered itself cruelly. Not just against Margaret, but against the children too. He had dragged them into his lies, using their innocence as cover for his deceit. "Enough," I whispered, setting the cup down with a sharp clink. "He may think he is clever. He may think his money and mistresses will shield him. But he does not know me. He does not know what I will do for my family." I rose, straightened my shoulders, and pulled my cardigan tighter. The morning light streamed through the curtains, but in my heart, the storm had only begun. That very day, I began my first quiet move. I called an old acquaintance, Mrs. Thompson, who ran a private investigations firm. A discreet woman, widowed like me, with a sharp mind and sharper instincts. "Margaret's husband," I told her over the phone. "I want every secret, every late-night visit, every financial slip, every whisper of impropriety. Leave no stone unturned." Her answer was curt, efficient. "Consider it done, Eleanor." And as I hung up the phone, I stared at Margaret sleeping once more on the couch, bruises still fresh. I vowed, with fire in my chest, Daniel had just written the first line of his downfall. That night, as the investigation began, I received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was shaky, and what it revealed about Daniel made my blood run cold. The phone rang just past 9 in the evening. I answered quickly, careful not to wake Margaret. "Mrs. Whitmore?" The voice was soft, hesitant. "This is Anna. I should not be calling, but you need to know." "Know what?" My tone was clipped, steady. "I work at Daniel's office. I have seen him with Julia. Everyone has. But that is not all. There is money missing, large sums, siphoned through fake accounts in Julia's name. He brags that no one can touch him because he has friends in the bank." I pressed the receiver tightly to my ear. "How much money?" "Hundreds of thousands," she whispered. "And he has been taking clients' money too. People are starting to talk. If this comes out, he will lose everything. But if he suspects I told you—" "Do not worry, child." I cut in, my voice calm. "Your name will never leave my lips." She hung up quickly, as though Daniel himself were listening. I lowered the phone slowly. Margaret's battered face haunted me, but now I saw another battlefield forming. This was not just a betrayal of marriage. It was betrayal of trust, betrayal of livelihood, betrayal of his own family's future. And greed always leaves a trail. The following morning, Mrs. Thompson, the private investigator, arrived with her first report. A neat folder landed on my coffee table. Inside were photographs, grainy but damning. Daniel and Julia together in restaurants, holding hands, slipping into hotels. One photo in particular made my chest tighten. He was in the park with Lillian Thomas. Julia sat beside him on the bench, laughing, touching his arm, while my grandchildren licked ice cream cones. Margaret had not been there. My daughter's children, used as props in his deception. I shut the folder, my jaw tight. Mrs. Thompson adjusted her glasses. "He is sloppy, Eleanor. Men like him always are. He thinks appearances protect him, but the truth is piling up. He has enemies at work. You might find allies if you know where to look." Her words echoed in my mind long after she left. Allies? Yes, that would be necessary. That evening, Margaret sat with a cup of tea, her hands still trembling when she lifted it. "Mother, he called me today," she whispered. "He said he knows I ran to you. He said He said if I do not come back, he will take the children and I will never see them again. Her voice cracked, and the cup rattled against the saucer. Mother, he can do it. He has money, lawyers. Listen to me, Margaret, I interrupted, my voice steady, like iron under velvet. He thrives on fear. That is his weapon. Ours will be the truth. But we cannot strike too soon. Do you understand? You must endure a little longer while I gather what I need. She nodded slowly, though her eyes carried doubt. Days turned into weeks. Evidence piled higher. Emails, photographs, financial documents. And then betrayal layered itself deeper than I imagined. One afternoon, as I sorted through papers, my neighbor Mrs. Jenkins hurried across my porch. Her face was pale. Eleanor, she whispered urgently. I saw Daniel today. He was at the school. With Julia. Bold as brass, picking up your grandchildren as if she were their mother. He kissed her cheek in front of the teachers. I froze. My chest burned. To parade his mistress before teachers, neighbors, the children. That was not carelessness. That was arrogance. It was a declaration. I can do what I please and no one can stop me. That night I confronted Margaret. Did you know he brought Julia to the school? Her face went white. No, mother. He promised, her voice broke. What is he doing to them? I grasped her hands firmly. He is trying to rewrite the story. To replace you. But I will not let him. Neither will you. Your children will know who their mother is, and they will know who destroyed their family. He cannot erase you. Her tears spilled, but behind them flickered a spark of defiance. By then, Mrs. Thompson uncovered something even darker. Daniel had been planning to transfer property deeds into Julia's name. Not just his investments, but Margaret's home as well. The house she had built memories in, the rooms where her children took their first steps. He was stealing them, piece by piece, under the guise of legality. I slammed my fist against the armrest when I read it. This is no longer just betrayal. This is theft. He means to strip her bare. Mrs. Thompson's eyes gleamed. Do you want me to dig deeper? Perhaps speak to a journalist I know. Not yet, I said sharply. He must not see the storm coming. Let him build his tower of lies higher. The taller it stands, the harder it will fall. Still, I could feel the noose tightening. Every betrayal I uncovered made me wonder what final move Daniel was preparing. Men like him never stop at one sin. They spiral until ruin catches them. And ruin was coming. Late one evening, while Margaret read Lily a bedtime story in the next room, I sat alone at the kitchen table, sifting through photographs under the dim light. The phone rang again. A man's voice this time. Rough. Nervous. Mrs. Whitmore? You do not know me. I am one of Daniel's clients. He took everything from me. My savings, my land. I have nothing left. My breath caught. Why are you calling me? Because I heard you are his mother-in-law. You need to understand. He will not stop. He destroys everyone he touches. If you are planning something, count me in. He deserves to burn. The line went dead before I could ask his name. I sat there in the silence, the ticking clock loud in my ears. Allies, Mrs. Thompson had said. They were coming to me already. Victims, neighbors, colleagues. Daniel's empire was rotting from within. The question was not whether he would fall. It was how, and when, I would pull the final thread. The very next day, Daniel himself appeared at my doorstep, smiling like a snake, as though nothing had happened. And the words he spoke nearly broke my composure. The doorbell rang on a Sunday morning. When I opened it, there he stood, Daniel, tall, well-groomed, his expensive cologne poisoning the air. He smiled like a man greeting an old friend, not the monster who had sent my daughter into hiding. Mother-in-law, he said smoothly, may I come in? Every instinct screamed to slam the door. But wisdom, not rage, had to guide me. So I stepped aside, gesturing toward the sitting room. He sat on the couch, legs crossed, adjusting his cufflinks. You know Margaret belongs with me. She is confused, but I forgive her a little tantrum. If you are a good mother, you will encourage her to come home. I folded my hands on my lap, keeping my gaze steady. Come home. To the man who split her lip and cracked her rib. His smile flickered, but only for a moment. Exaggerations. You women, you thrive on drama. I have provided her a fine home, security, and children who want their parents together. She should be grateful. I leaned forward slightly. Do you think gratitude is owed to a man who parades his mistress at the children's school? The mask slipped then. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. Be very careful, Eleanor. You meddle too much. You have no idea who you are dealing with. I let silence hang between us, thick and heavy. Finally, I whispered, Oh, Daniel, you have no idea who you are dealing with. For a split second, fear flickered in his eyes. But he masked it with a laugh, rising from the couch. Margaret will come back. One way or another. And when she does, you will regret interfering. When the door closed behind him, I felt my chest tighten. Not with fear, no, with clarity. He had shown his hand. He thought intimidation would silence me. He was wrong. That evening, I began my secret moves. First, I contacted Mrs. Thompson again. I want the property documents. Every deed, every transfer Daniel has signed. Quietly. I need proof that he is moving Margaret's home into Julia's name. She agreed, her voice clipped. You will have them within the week. Second, I reached out to Anna, the young secretary who had risked calling me. Keep feeding me information, I told her. But do not let him suspect. If he grows suspicious, he will turn on you. Her voice trembled. He already suspects me, Mrs. Whitmore. He asks too many questions. I am scared. Stay calm, I assured her. I will protect you. And when this is over, you will never fear him again. Third, I visited the school discreetly. I requested a private meeting with Lily's teacher. If you ever see Julia again acting in the role of their guardian, I said firmly, call me immediately. I will handle it. The teacher's eyes softened with sympathy. I understand, Mrs. Whitmore. I suspected something was wrong. Piece by piece, I tightened my web. Margaret, however, was unraveling. One night, I found her pacing my kitchen, her hair loose, her face pale. Mother, I cannot live like this, hiding, waiting. He calls every day. He threatens me. What if he takes the children? What if he wins? I took her hands, squeezing them hard. Listen to me, Margaret. He thrives on fear. Do not feed it. Every day you endure, I grow closer to ending this. Do you trust me? Her tears brimmed. With my life. That gave me strength. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. Mrs. Thompson returned with a thick envelope. I found it, she whispered, her eyes gleaming. He signed the transfer papers last week. He moved Margaret's home into Julia's trust. But he made a mistake. He forged her signature on the consent form. This is criminal fraud. I took the papers, my hands steady despite the fire roaring inside me. This was not just proof. This was his undoing. But I could not move yet. No, Daniel had to be caught in the open, stripped of his lies in front of family and community. Only then would Margaret be free. That night, as I tucked the envelope away in my desk, I whispered into the darkness, Your time is running out, Daniel. Every secret you thought was hidden is already mine. Still, one question gnawed at me. How far would he go before his empire collapsed? The answer came sooner than I expected. 3 nights later, Margaret's phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. Just one sentence. If you are not home by tomorrow, you will never see Lily and Thomas again. Margaret sat frozen at the kitchen table, the glow of her phone's screen illuminating her pale face. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped it. Mother, she whispered, he has taken them. He has Lily and Thomas. I pulled the phone from her trembling grip. The message stared back at me. If you are not home by tomorrow, you will never see Lily and Thomas again. A storm raged in my chest. My voice, however, was calm. Margaret, listen carefully. He is bluffing. He thrives on fear. But we cannot underestimate him. Her eyes brimmed with tears. What if it is not a bluff? What if he hurts them the way he hurt me? I leaned closer, my voice steady low. He will not hurt them. He needs them. They are his shield. But now he has made a mistake. He has given me the weapon I need. I rose, went to my desk, and pulled out the envelope of forged property documents. I spread them on the table, the damning evidence under the yellow glow of the lamp. Margaret, I said, tapping the papers, this is fraud. With this, I can destroy him legally. But we must make it public. He has friends in banks, in courts. If we go quietly, he will bury the evidence. We must drag him into the light, where his allies cannot protect him. Margaret's lip trembled. But how? He controls everything. I smiled faintly. Not everything. He does not control me. That very night I made my calls. First, Mrs. Thompson. We will move soon. Spread word discreetly to those Daniel has wronged. Invite them to my house in 2 days. I want witnesses. Second, Dr. Harrison. You will attend as well. Your testimony about Margaret's injuries may be needed. Third, the client who had called me in despair. Be ready to speak. This is your chance. And finally, Anna, the secretary. Her voice cracked with fear. If I speak, he will know it was me. Yes, I told her gently. But you will not speak alone. We will stand together. And when this is over, his power over you will be finished forever. By midnight, the pieces were in motion. The following morning, I told Margaret the plan. Her eyes widened as I explained. You will be here. In this very room. Surrounded by those he has betrayed. And when he tries to lie, I will strip him bare. He will have nowhere to hide. Margaret's face flushed with both fear and hope. Mother, what if he refuses to come? I smiled, cold and certain. Oh, he will come. I will make sure of it. That afternoon I dialed his number. He answered on the first ring, smug. Daniel, I said evenly, you have gone too far. You threaten my daughter, you take her children. This ends now. Meet me at my house tomorrow evening. Alone. If you are half the man you claim to be, you will face me. He chuckled darkly. And if I do not? Then I release what I know, I said. Your mistress. Your fraud. Your forged papers. You will not survive it. Silence. Then his voice low and sharp. Fine. Tomorrow. But be careful what you wish for, Eleanor. I hung up and let the silence settle. Margaret's hand reached for mine, trembling. Mother, what if he destroys us? I squeezed her hand hard. No, child. Tomorrow is the day we destroy him. That night, as I prepared my home for the confrontation, papers organized, chairs arranged, allies warned, I felt the weight of my years, but also the strength of them. He thought age meant weakness. He would soon learn that age meant patience. And patience builds power. The next evening, as the clock struck 7, the doorbell rang. Daniel stood on my porch, but he was not alone, and who walked in beside him made every witness in the room gasp. The living room was lit brighter than usual, every lamp casting a steady glow. I wanted no shadows in this confrontation. Chairs were arranged in a circle, not unlike a courtroom. The fire burned in the hearth, but the heat in the room came not from flames, but from the gathering storm. Margaret sat close to me, her face pale but resolute. Beside her, Dr. Harrison held a file of medical notes. Across from them sat Mrs. Thompson, her sharp eyes scanning the room. And in the corner, quiet and trembling, was Anna, the secretary, clutching her purse as if it were a shield. Others had come too. The client Daniel had ruined, his jaw tight with barely restrained anger, and even Mrs. Jenkins from next door, whose witness at the school would prove crucial. We waited. The clock ticked past 7. Then the doorbell rang. I rose, smoothed my dress, and opened the door. Daniel stood tall, smug as ever in his tailored suit. But he was not alone. Standing beside him, with a smirk to rival his own, was Julia. Gasps rippled through the room as they stepped in together, hand in hand, like royalty arriving at court. Really, Eleanor, Daniel said with a mocking grin. What is this little gathering? A tea party? Did you think you could scare me with gossip? Julia's eyes flicked around the room, calculating. She was younger, beautiful in that polished, practiced way. Her gaze landed on Margaret, and for a brief moment her smirk faltered, but only for a moment. Margaret's lip trembled, but she did not look away. How dare you bring her here, she whispered. Daniel waved a dismissive hand. Please. She is part of my life now. Better she hears whatever nonsense you people have cooked up. I stepped forward, placing myself between my daughter and that viper. My voice was calm but cut like glass. Very well. Since you are so eager, let us begin. I placed the forged documents on the table. This is a deed transfer. Margaret's home, signed away into Julia's name. Without her consent. Daniel glanced at the papers, then chuckled. So what? A piece of paper? Margaret agreed to it. Is that not right, my dear? Margaret rose to her feet, trembling but defiant. I never signed anything. That is not my signature. Her voice cracked, but her courage filled the room. Gasps again. Julia shifted uncomfortably. Daniel's mask flickered, but he quickly recovered. She is lying. Desperate. Look at her. She is unstable. She ran to her mother like a child. I raised my hand, silencing him. Then perhaps Dr. Harrison will speak. The doctor stood, opening his file. His voice was steady, clinical. On the night Margaret fled to her mother, she was covered in bruises. Split lip. Cracked rib. Defensive wounds. I treated her myself. I can confirm she had been assaulted violently. The room grew thick with shock. Daniel laughed again, louder this time, though sweat glistened at his temples. Doctors can be bought. Stories can be made. You have nothing, Eleanor. Nothing that proves anything. At that, Anna rose slowly from her chair. Her voice trembled, but the words spilled like confession. I saw you. I saw everything. You bragged about stealing from clients. You used company accounts to fund Julia's expenses. You forged signatures, Daniel. I have copies of the emails. Daniel's face snapped toward her, rage blazing. You little snake. I slammed my palm against the table. Enough. My voice sliced through the room, startling even him. You think you can bully women into silence, Daniel. Not here. Not tonight. Every voice in this room carries truth, and together they outweigh your lies. The client who had lost everything stood then, his voice bitter. He ruined me. He took my land, my savings, and when I begged him to return it, he laughed in my face. He said, "Old men like you are too slow for this world." His words echoed, each testimony piling like stones upon Daniel's chest. Julia shifted again, her smirk gone. "Daniel, is this true?" His jaw tightened. "Do not listen to them, Julia. They are jealous. They want to see me fall." But doubt flickered in her eyes. And doubt is poison to the arrogant. I seized the moment. "Daniel Whitmore, you have betrayed your wife, your children, your clients, and even your mistress. You thought you could manipulate, threaten, and steal. But tonight, every sin stands before you laid bare." The silence was deafening. Even the fire crackled softly, as though holding its breath. Daniel's mask cracked fully now. His voice rose, harsh and wild. "You think you can destroy me, old woman? I will take my children. I will take everything. And when I do, you will crawl to me and beg." I stepped forward, meeting his fury with ice. "No, Daniel. Tonight, it is you who will crawl." And then came the twist I had not expected. Julia suddenly spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. "Daniel, did you really forge Margaret's name? Did you really take money from clients?" He turned to her, eyes blazing. "You ungrateful fool. Do not start with me now." The room held its breath. Julia's hand slipped from his. She stared at him, her expression shifting. Anger, then realization, then fear. "Daniel," she whispered, "you dragged me into this. You promised it was safe." "Do not turn on me," he growled, stepping closer. But it was too late. Julia had seen the truth, and she was about to speak words that would change everything. Julia's voice trembled as she looked at me instead of him. "Mrs. Whitmore, if I tell you everything, will you protect me?" The air in the room thickened. Julia's question hung like a blade above us all. "Mrs. Whitmore, if I tell you everything, will you protect me?" Every eye turned to me. I studied Julia, the polished hair, the expensive clothes Daniel had bought her with stolen money. She was selfish, yes, but I could see the tremor in her hand, the way her gaze darted toward Daniel like a rabbit cornered by a wolf. I gave a single, slow nod. "If you speak the truth, Julia, then yes. But understand this. Lies will bury you alongside him." Daniel snarled. "Don't you dare, Julia. Keep your mouth shut." Julia took a shaky step forward. "He told me he'd left Margaret long ago. He said the house was his, that the money was his. I believed him at first. But then I saw the papers. He made me sign things under my name, deeds, accounts, things I didn't understand. He said it was just business. But last month," her voice cracked, and she clutched her arms. "Last month he laughed and told me everything was a game. Margaret's signature was forged. That the money was stolen. That I was his shield, in case anyone came after him." Gasps swept the room. Margaret staggered back, hand over her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes, but behind them burned a fury I had not seen in years. Daniel lunged forward, grabbing Julia's arm. "Enough! You think they'll believe you? You're nothing without me." But Julia wrenched free, shoving him back with surprising strength. "No, Daniel. I was nothing to you." The room erupted. Anna stood taller, emboldened. "I have proof. Emails, bank statements. I kept them hidden because I was scared. But not anymore." The ruined client slammed his fist on the table. "I'll take those to court myself." Daniel spun in circles, his mask shattering into raw panic. His voice rose, shrill. "This is a conspiracy. You're all against me. You think you can destroy me? I'll burn everything before I let you win." I stepped forward, my pearl necklace gleaming in the firelight. My voice was steady, deadly calm. "No, Daniel. You've already destroyed yourself. Tonight, the world sees you for what you are." He glared at me, eyes wild. "And what am I, old woman?" I did not flinch. "A coward. A thief. And a man who raised his hand against my daughter. That is your legacy." Silence crashed over the room. Even Daniel seemed stunned by the weight of my words. Then Margaret rose, her shoulders squared. For the first time, her voice rang strong. "I won't let you hurt me again. Or my children." Daniel's face twisted. He opened his mouth to roar, but before he could, Mrs. Thompson, the lawyer, stood and placed a folder on the table. "These," she said crisply, "are the formal filings for both a restraining order and criminal charges. Margaret's testimony, Anna's evidence, Julia's confession, Dr. Harrison's medical report, and Mr. Harris's financial losses will be enough to secure conviction." Daniel froze. His chest heaved, his eyes darted like a cornered beast. You can't." But even Julia shook her head now. It's over, Daniel. For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. Not arrogance. Not rage. Pure fear. And then, in a last desperate act, he lunged toward the table, grabbing the documents as if tearing paper could undo the truth. But I was faster. My cane struck the table with a sharp crack, blocking his hand. My voice thundered. Enough! The force of it stopped him cold. The room was silent, every heart pounding. I leaned closer, my eyes locked on his. You will not destroy another woman's life in this family. Not my daughter's. Not my grandchildren's. And not even hers, I gestured toward Julia, because she too is done with you. Daniel's hand trembled over the documents. Slowly, shakily, he let them fall. The fight drained out of him. His chest rose and fell in jagged breaths. He looked around the room, at Margaret's defiance, Julia's betrayal, Anna's courage, the doctor's certainty, the lawyer's resolve. And at last his gaze landed on me. For the first time he knew. He had lost. I whispered, low and cold. The law will have you next. And at that moment, the sound of sirens grew faint in the distance. The sirens grow louder, coming closer. Daniel realizes his empire is crumbling. Everyone in the room braces for the final reckoning. But how far will he go before the law takes him? The sirens drew nearer, their wails slicing through the night like a promise. The tension in the room was unbearable. Every breath shallow, every heartbeat too loud. Daniel stumbled back as the blue and red lights flashed through the windows. His once proud shoulders sagged, his eyes darting desperately, searching for escape. But there was none left. The door burst open. 2 officers stepped in, hands firm, voices clipped. Daniel Carter? Daniel tried to puff his chest, his voice trembling but defiant. This is a mistake. They're lying. They're all conspiring. But the lawyer, Mrs. Thompson, lifted the folder of evidence. Calmly, she handed it over. Everything you need is here, officers. Multiple testimonies. Medical records. Financial fraud. He is finished. The officers nodded. One stepped forward and pulled Daniel's wrists behind his back. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was like the closing of a coffin. Margaret gasped softly, her body trembling. For years she had lived under his shadow, but in that single metallic snap, I saw the chains around her soul break. Daniel struggled, his voice cracking. Margaret, don't do this. Think of the children. Margaret's tears streamed, but her voice was steady, unwavering. I am thinking of them. That is why this ends tonight. Julia covered her face, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Even Anna, the timid one, straightened her back, her chin high, as if she too had broken free. As the officers dragged Daniel toward the door, he turned one last time, his eyes full of venom. You'll regret this, Eleanor. You think you've won. But you've destroyed everything. I met his glare without blinking. No, Daniel. You destroyed yourself. I simply held the mirror. The door slammed behind him, leaving only silence, broken by the faint sound of Margaret collapsing into tears. I caught her, holding her just as I had the night she first arrived at my door, broken, battered, terrified. Only this time the tears were not of fear. They were released. The days that followed felt like sunlight after a long storm. The court accepted the charges swiftly. The evidence was overwhelming. Julia handed over every document Daniel had made her sign. Anna gave her testimony. Dr. Harrison confirmed Margaret's injuries in meticulous detail. And Mr. Harris, the ruined client, demanded restitution, ensuring Daniel's financial empire collapsed before he even saw the inside of a cell. Daniel was sentenced. The gavel fell. The chapter closed. But justice, I learned long ago, is not only about courts and sentences. It is about repair. I spent long evenings with Margaret, sitting at the kitchen table where the air smelled of chamomile tea and safety. She spoke of nightmares, of years of whispered insults and hidden bruises. And I listened, not as a judge, not as a strategist, but simply as her mother. Mother, she whispered one night, eyes swollen from crying, why did I stay so long? I reached across the table, taking her trembling hand. Because hope is a chain, Margaret, and hope is both heavy and fragile. But now you know, you never needed his hope. You had your own strength all along. Her eyes filled again, but this time there was no despair. There was light. Weeks later, the family gathered in my garden. The autumn leaves had begun to fall, gold and crimson, scattering across the grass. My grandchildren played freely, laughter ringing through the air, no longer silenced by fear of their father's footsteps. Margaret sat beside me, calmer, stronger. She wore no makeup, no mask, just her own skin, healing slowly. She leaned her head against my shoulder. You saved me, Mother. I shook my head gently. No, child. You saved yourself. I simply cleared the path. She smiled then, the first true smile I had seen in years. And in that moment, I felt my husband's presence, steady, proud. His wisdom had guided me in silence. His strength had carried me through. So, my dear listeners, what lesson lives in this story? It is this: silence feeds cruelty, but truth starves it. A woman's voice, once broken, can rise stronger than steel. And an old woman's wisdom is a weapon no greedy man can predict. Daniel thought I was weak. He thought age dulled justice. He thought cruelty could hide behind charm and wealth. But he was wrong. Wisdom never fades. Remember this: when you see a hand raised against the innocent, do not look away. Stand firm. Hold the mirror. And let the guilty destroy themselves in their own reflection. They thought I was weak, but wisdom never fades. What lesson do you take from this story? Comment below. If you believe justice belongs to the brave, like this video, subscribe for more, and tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Because stories like mine remind us, justice may take time, but it always comes.